Hello, everyone, and welcome to our presentation on leading diverse teams. My name is Melissa Zavorsky. I will be alongside Blake Biscardi and Joe Schreiber. Today, we are going to use this presentation as an extension of our research paper that was written on gender impact on coaching in Division I athletics. We will clearly focus on what we see to be a current problem with DEI in Division I athletics, a recommended solution based on our research, and the potential benefit of adopting our plan. Our launching pad comes from what's called the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Review Framework from the NCAA, the National Collegiate Athletic Association. It requires members to complete a self-directed DEI review every 4 years. The NCAA states in its philosophy statement that it includes creating inclusive cultures in athletics. Here's Blake to explain the 3 takeaways that you can expect to learn from our presentation.
Thank you, Melissa. Our 3 main talking points today, what you're going to learn, and these will be your takeaways. The first one will be the significant disparity in the gender of coaches and the lack of female coaches in Division I sports as a whole. And then our second point will be that DEI being everyone's responsibility, including the NCAA, who has it in their statement, as Joe mentioned, and the importance of creating a high trust environment where those team members feel safe and also included as we extend from men to women into coaching. And the third one will be the benefits of moving to this model as society continues to change and the positive impact that more female coaches will have that will also transcend sport. And now I'll throw it back to Joe.
All right, thank you, Blake. So who can coach? I mean, if we look at the way coaches have been glorified in the media, or specifically the movies, a lot of times we see male coaches. I mean, if you've seen any of the old school movies like Miracle on Ice, which was about the 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team beating the Russians, or the basketball movie Hoosiers with old Gene Hackman starring as the head coach in that movie, that's the way we're used to seeing these coaches. Let's take a look.
From the end zone to the locker room, he pushes you to be your best.
Being perfect is not about that scoreboard out there.
He shows you how to dig deep and beat the odds.
We shut them down because we can.
He's a leader who takes his team to the limit and to victory.
Hey, women coach too.
Here we go! Hey!
They call me Hutch. They don't call me Coach Hutch, they just call me Hutch.
I'm Coach Eddie, and I'm the only woman coaching Division I men's basketball.
So that woman, Coach Curry, when she was named the assistant coach back in 2019, she became only the 4th female assistant coach in men's Division I basketball in history, and only the 4th one in 29 years, because the first one was back in 1990. Rick Pitino, who was then the coach of Kentucky, named Bernadette Maddox as the first ever female assistant. So not much progress there. But what about the progress of female coaches in women's sports in Division I? Well, according to the Tucker Center for Research, it's about less than half of the head coaches, 42% in women's Division I sports, are female. So what are the disparaging factors? Female Division I athletic directors, and there's only 7% of the athletic directors are female, according to the latest data. They said that they had no female mentors. They had no role models. And they really didn't think about becoming athletic directors or even coaches because they didn't have the role models. In fact, a couple of the athletic directors says that they were an accidental tourist. They kind of backed into becoming an athletic director. And as far as the discouraging factors within society, well, homophobia is a problem. There's research that'll tell you the words female athlete and lesbian are often used in the same sentence. And so what's the problem with that? Well, some sport organizations try to avoid talking about LGBTQ athletes and coaches in their sport or sport organization because it could affect public relationships, sponsorships, recruitment, and the image of women in sport. And then there's this idea of masculine hegemony. And really, that is a term that was coined by sociologist R.W. Connell. And it's a system, a practice aiming to legitimize and solidify the dominant role of men in society, pegging other groups, including women, as subordinates. So as this continues to perpetuate, it's something and stands in the way of women advancing as head coaches, even of female sports. So is there hope? Blake is going to talk a little bit about one of the more forceful and inspiring figures in women's college basketball who made a big statement back in 2019, right, Blake?
Absolutely. Muffet McGraw's statement reverberated across Division I athletics and predominantly women's college basketball. It was during the NCAA tournament, which has a major audience. And I'll let you guys listen to the statement here.
We don't have enough female role models. We don't have enough visible women leaders. We don't have enough women in power. And when these girls are coming out, who are they looking up to tell them that that's not the way it has to be? And where better to do that than in sports? But wouldn't it be great if we could teach them to watch how women lead? So yes, when you look at men's basketball and 99% of the jobs go to men, why shouldn't 100 or 99% of the jobs in women's basketball go to women? Maybe it's because we only have 10% women athletic directors in Division I. People hire people who look like them, and that's the problem.
Yeah, and as we get into the solution here, I'm going to pull right off of Muffet McGraw's words there and saying, and also Joe's research as well, he mentioned from the University of Tennessee with the mentorship in collegiate athletics. Now, what has to be done is that people have to realize that DEI is everyone's responsibility. And as the NCAA, as the proverbial leader in this space, they have to create the culture in their organization and actually act on it. So action is going to be something that's extremely important here. And they have to be willing to learn about the other perspectives of those people. Like Muffet McGraw's bringing up a big point saying, well, in men's sports, we have 99 or 100%. So the overwhelming majority of those jobs are for men. But in women's sports, those jobs are still for men. Why aren't they for women? So we need to increase those mentoring opportunities for women in that space so they can continue to move up. And now a challenge that is presented when women want to do that is the work-life balance between being a mother and having a family and then also working. And that's something that the NCAA really needs to dive into, because a woman should not have to choose between becoming a mother and raising her family and her work. She should be able to be accommodated for those opportunities. And maybe that's why we don't see more women in leadership positions. For example, she said only 10% of athletic directors are women. Well, what's the percentage of head coaches or assistant coaches? Now, is a reason that women are not in those roles because they want to have a family and then now just the men is working back how it was a long time ago? Not that anything's wrong with that per se, if that's how that family dynamic wants to be, but there's opportunity being left on the table when we're not pouring more resources into developing women into the leadership roles for them to assume the role of athletic director or of a head coach of a program or as an assistant coach, because they have the same impact on sports as men can. And I'll bring this back to Joe.
All right, thank you, Blake. So what is the brighter vision of the future? I want you to take a look at that photograph there on the left. The woman on the right, that's Muffet McGraw, who we heard from earlier. This is when she was wrapping up her career coaching at Notre Dame, where she was a legend and won championship. And the woman on her left is Niele Ivey. She was the assistant coach at the time and is now the head coach. Muffet McGraw recruited Niele, and Niele went there because she looked up to Muffet as a role model. So this is really the manifestation of her entire point, and also the manifestation of some prominent research. Nicole Lavoie, who wrote a book called Women in Sports Coaching, and she made the points about same-sex role models positively influencing self-perception, gender diversity in role models, challenging gender stereotypes. But The whole idea is that this transcends sports and that corporations with women leadership outperform average company return. The brighter vision of the future is that with more female coaches, more female role models, that we can have more female leaders in society. Blake, I'll let you wrap it up.
Yeah, just in summation of everything we've covered today, we're just going to re-hit those three main points. And number one being the significant disparity in the gender of coaches in the sport and how we need to improve that. And that's by saying that everyone in the NCAA, from men to women, from the top GA all the way to Mark Emmert, the president, everyone needs to embrace DEI as being their responsibility and including those spaces for women to give them more roles in women's sports first, and then also into men's sport, and just promoting that equal footing for both of them. And then finally, as Joe wrapped up, the benefits that that could have, and it would transcend sports. Sports is a great commonplace for everyone in the world. You know, it has no political lines. It doesn't have, you know, racial lines or ethnic lines. Sports is a commonplace for everyone, and it can be the catalyst toward moving this out into the rest of the world, with sports being the focus of so many worlds as it is. Why can't it be the focus of giving women more opportunity?
Thank you, Blake. So, in conclusion, as Blake mentioned earlier, women impact sports in the same way, and everything comes down to action and execution for the NCAA, with women in sports and leagues in the conference. All accepting progressive change in society is creating the willingness that women want to hold the same roles and have the same opportunities presented to them. Women leaders need to be developed and mentored to be able to hold these spaces, just like the men. And that's creating to make sure we have the most inclusive work environment that is filled with gender-based diversity, free from preconceived notions and labels. As you see on the picture of the right, this is a powerful image of Temple community with Coach John Chaney and Coach Dawn Staley. We have a coach that is male and one that is female, both of them people of color, coaching successfully. This shows the great possibilities that could lie ahead if we make greater progress with DEI in Division I sports. We just want to say thank you for tuning in with us today and listening to our presentation. And we hope that you remember those three takeaways. Thank you for your time.